Anyway, I wanted to welcome all of you who are here this evening. My name is Kathy Collins, and I'm Director of Member Resources at Staying Put in New Canaan. We are providing this panel discussion tonight in partnership with the New Canaan Library. And Staying Put, for those of you who may not be familiar with us, is an organization started about 10 years ago by some older adults in New Canaan who wanted to stay put in their homes, stay active in their communities, and stay independent for as long as possible. Right now, we have about 250 members, and we're part of the Village to Village Network, which is all sorts of little organizations like Staying Put throughout the country. Right now, there are 250 up and running, and another 250 in the planning stages. So it is a movement that's growing, and it does help older adults stay in place. I wanted to introduce two of my co-workers, my boss, Barb Achenbaum, Executive Director of Staying Put, and Nicola Holzberger, Director of Member Services. So, this evening's talk is Smart Move, considering the pros and cons of having an older parent move closer to an adult child. So we have a mix in here this evening of some older parents and some adult children, and I hope you'll both take away something to get some conversations going on this topic to see what might be the right thing for you personally. Because there's no right answer. It's not, yes, you should move, or yes, you should stay put. It really depends on each person, each situation, each family. So just think about that as we're going through our presentation. I just wanted to mention a few other things. About 50 years ago, most people in the United States stayed near where they were born. They had families near where they were born. Relatives stayed within close proximity, maybe a few miles of each other. Today, many people are scattered throughout the United States and also throughout the world. So we don't have those close-knit family ties that we had years ago where everyone stays in the same place. So you may have moved away, or your parents may have moved away, and now your parents are getting older and you're a bit concerned about should they move closer to where we are, or is there something we can do to make sure that they're okay where they are? Now, a couple of things I just wanted you to consider if you are thinking about having a parent move closer, or if you are the parent who's thinking about moving closer. Do you enjoy each other's company? When you argue, are you able to agree to disagree? And if you've never really gotten along, don't expect the relationship to get better if you move closer now. It's not a magic wand. There are many challenges whether or not you decide to move closer or stay where you are. But either way, both of those decisions require openness and honesty about the feelings that every person has in this situation. There are many benefits and sacrifices to whether you stay put or whether you are moving closer to your adult child. And just something for you to all consider. So tonight's panel will look at the pros and cons and consider whether physical proximity and feeling safe and cared for balances the loss of familiar friends, familiar locations, and independence. The panel tonight includes Sheila Rosenthal, a parent who decided to stay put in her community, Priscilla Thomas, a parent who moved closer to family, and Carol Holliday of William Pitt Sotheby's International Realty, an expert in downsizing and decluttering. So I just wanted to say first, welcome to our panel. And our first panelist this evening is Sheila Rosenthal. And Sheila and her husband Bud raised 3 children in New Canaan. Sheila has lived here for over 50 years. Sheila's a realtor at Halstead, and she's also a member and volunteer of Staying Put. Not that I'm plugging Staying Put, but just saying. And Sheila decided to stay put. So I'll turn it over to you, Sheila. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I decided to stay after thinking about leaving the house that I had. I guess I never considered moving near my children. I have a daughter who lives in Vermont, and as much as Vermont is a great place, I tried to explain to her when she said, why don't you come live here? You know, we're near Dartmouth, and I said, yeah, that would be great. I don't know what I would do at Dartmouth. Maybe take some classes or so. I said, but Vermont doesn't have, the seasonal things that I'd like. It's like winter from October till probably April. Then you have mud season. And I said, then what, you have about 2 or 3 months of, summer, spring-like? And she said, but it's so great in the winter. You could cross-country ski. And actually her longtime the guy that she goes with actually is head of a assisted living. So she said to me, well, if it got really bad, you could go where Eric is. I'm like, gosh, I hadn't thought of that. Gosh. And then I have a child who lives in Boston who has 3 darling little children, and I thought about moving there. And there would be a lot to recommend it because I would be near 3 little monkeys that I love, but I really wouldn't want to interfere with their life, and I really wouldn't want them interfering with my life. And at my age, I'd have to either join a church group, which I would detest, I wouldn't like that, or become involved in something, maybe the library, or maybe if they had a staying put where you could meet other people. But to me, my friends that I've had all these years, one of them is sitting right over there, I would miss them terribly, and it would be very difficult to make new friends and form deep friendships at my age. Everybody at my age probably has their own group of friends, unless, they're like me and they would move some strange place and try and make friends. And I have a son who is divorced, and he's moving to Denver, so that was out of the question because he's the one I probably would least get along with, although he's been living with me for the last 2 months. Among the other things he doesn't like is he doesn't like the water running in the kitchen. So that restricts how you wash. Mom, could you turn that off? I'm like, so I let it, fill up and then do the dishes and then quietly, because he doesn't like anything. And he's very specific about what he likes to eat. I'll say to him, what would you like for breakfast? Well, I love that omelet you do. And did you get some more of that nice bread? And I'm like, yeah, And so tonight, both of them were there, and they loved their dinner. They both like short ribs, so I made them short ribs tonight. But when he leaves in about 2 weeks, I will feel I have my home back. The other one comes down occasionally because his company has an office in Stamford, the headquarters. So none of that would have been feasible for me. I wouldn't have liked that. And I really and truly would have missed my friends and the life that I've developed over all the years that I've lived here, organizations that I've belonged to, company I work for I love. And if I moved near them, they would unconsciously interfere with the way I live. It'd be like, oh, could you babysit? I have a friend, Joanna and I have a friend who, all of us in real estate, Kathy Lawton, moved out to Chicago because she has 2 daughters out there. And we said, wow, that is the worst mistake. Well, I think she loves Chicago, but one of her daughters that's out there thinks that, Kathy is just an available babysitter at all times. The few times that she said no, she's had some, blowback from it. So that would be difficult. And just in general, I like the idea that I live on Elm Street in one of the condos, co-op actually. I have my own life. I can walk to town if I want. I can walk down and get groceries, go to church if I want, or I can do anything because I'm ambulatory. And if I went and lived with one of my children and I didn't, I ended up having a problem with walking or even talking, they would immediately put me away in an institution. I mean, like, bye-bye, Mom. My daughter and I were going on a bike trip many years ago, and we're over shopping in the mall, and we're on our way up the escalator, and I could not get the word flannel to come to mind. I was talking about getting something flannel because it was going to be cold where we were going or something. So after she said, you mean the word flannel? And I said, yes. And she said, well, I think you have aphasia. This was about 20 years ago, and I thought, I'm not sure, but I think that's when you've had a stroke and you have difficulty talking. And she said, I think we should tell the boys. I said, well, let's go home and look at what aphasia is. And she said, Well, whatever it is, you have something the matter when you can't even come up with the word flannel. Now imagine living with a child like that. No, that would not work, no. No, she wouldn't be a good companion. She likes to live alone, and she doesn't live anyway the way I do. I mean, I like everything in place, and all of my children are Slavs. I mean, I don't know how it happened. I said to one of them, the one in Boston, I walked in their master bedroom one day, and I said to him, did you think that that chair was a closet? There was every imaginable item of clothing you could think of on the chair. And he said, well, it's so much easier than hanging it up. I said, but then you have to take it to the cleaners because it's now a mess. You know, the pants are all crumpled and the jackets. He said, it's not a big deal. I'm like, well, I guess not. So I couldn't live with any of them, no. It would be very difficult. And I really like living here. I like living in a co-op. It's small, it's compact, and has everything I want. So that's my feeling for staying here. You also have one of the nicest group of people in that. Yes, it's a very nice group of people. Great people. Really. One of my neighbors, who's to the right, decided, because our 2 condos are up one step, and she wanted to make sure that we had the same plantings, because it was very important for I don't know, she just likes it that way. So we went out, and every year we buy the same plants. And the woman on the left buys these vivid colors, and they're the impatiens, the New Guinea impatiens. So my neighbor on this side said to me, do you think we could talk to her and ask her if she would get the same ones we have? And I said, if you'd like to have that conversation, really feel free. I mean, I'm not going to ask her because I happen to like those. So this past year, she came back she was up around the Boston area. She came back with about 10 beautiful plants, osteopermium they were called. They're like a white daisy with a blue center. So we planted them. Gosh, they were just doing beautifully, really beautifully. And suddenly we had a heat spell, and they stopped blooming. And she said to me, what happened? I said, gosh, I don't know. I said, but I think if you look it up on Google, it will tell you that they do not bloom in warm weather. So we never saw another flower from then on, because it was so hot that it destroyed its caring about blooming. And anyway, that's the end of my story.
Thank you, that's wonderful. Sheila brought up something when she was talking about her friend who moved to Chicago and she's babysitting 24/7. It's important to think about boundaries, whether you're far away or whether you're close. What are the boundaries? So another good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Our next panelist is Priscilla Thomas. Priscilla and her husband Dick lived and raised their 5 children in Old Greenwich, Connecticut, and Priscilla lived there for 48 years. In 2008, Priscilla had been widowed for several years. She was 73 and in good health, and decided to move from Old Greenwich to New Canaan to be closer to her family. And here is Priscilla's story.
First of all, I'd like to say that I love children very much. I came from a large family. I had a large family. And when my daughter with 6 children asked me if I would like to buy the house next door to her here in New Canaan, having been widowed for 8 years, I thought long and hard about it, leaving my beloved old house in Old Greenwich. And then I thought, I really, want me closer? I really would love to do that. But it is so important to have your boundaries. Now, I have 21 grandchildren, so I wanted a house and not a condominium because they come and visit me a lot. They are in ages from 8 to 34. So I have a lot of visitors, and I love it. So I mentioned I love children. I taught kindergarten and nursery school for 21 years total. And so it's very much a part of my life to be with young people. I found when I moved up, when I made the decision and moved up here right next to Amy, we each have 2 acres, so we're not really right in front of each other. I did a lot of carpooling, a lot of that sort of thing, which I loved. And to this day, there'll be a 22, 23-year-old I'll see on the street, and they'll say, "Hi, Granny, how are you?" And it's somebody that I had, carpooled with to lacrosse practice. But I like that kind of thing. It's very important, however, to have your own life with your own age group. And the way you do that, I found out, was to volunteer. So first thing I did was volunteer at Staying Put. And then I joined St. Mark's Church, and I joined the Historical Society, and I dressed up as a school marm for 3 or 4 years with school groups. But I found it very happy. And what Amy, my daughter, had said to me is, "Mom, we can help each other." And then it happened. 2 years ago, I had to have my knee replaced. 7 months later, I fell and broke my hip. And I'm having my other knee replaced next month. So she's right there. It's wonderful. She doesn't have to travel. My 4 boys all live in the Midwest. They're all happily married with multiple children. But this way they know that I'm well taken care of by their sister. And it's just such an easy arrangement. But as Kathy said, you have to have had a long history of getting along together. And it's so important, again, as I said, to know your own space and not, have your own lives. The other thing about friends, which I think are important, I have found in the 8 years, the 10 years that I've lived here, 2 of my best friends in Old Greenwich have died. Other 2 best friends have severe dementia. So had I stayed in Old Greenwich, I really basically would have lost 4 of my very closest friends there. And I find very often people start moving away, as I did, to be near their children. So I just found that I'm in a very happy spot. I'm 83 years old now, and I just feel very, very loved and taken care of, which is sort of a nice feeling. And my boys are awfully happy that I made this decision. So that's my story.
Didn't your son-in-law persuade you to move too?
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is a great compliment.
Yes, my son-in-law called and asked me, he said, "Please do move in this house." So that's her.
That speaks for the well.
That's the kind of daughter-in-law I want someday. Priscilla, thank you. That was wonderful. And here you have 2 versions, one staying put, one moving closer, and why? Our next panelist is Carol Holliday, and Carol and her husband Jim have lived in and around New Canaan for over 45 years. Carol is an expert in downsizing and decluttering, and she's going to speak to that and also talk about if you are planning on downsizing, whether you're moving closer to family or just downsizing within your own community. What are some alternative living situations for those conditions? And then after Carol speaks, we'll have some Q&A. Carol?
Can you hear me? Are you sure? Okay. I'm going to talk about downsizing, which is a rather difficult topic. Nancy, can you tell us what you've been thinking about? Because I've been hearing this from you for a couple of years now.
The clutter has increased, although we try and chip away at it, but life goes on and more things seem to come in than go out. So we have a full attic and a full, I heard somewhere, another talk by an expert in moving, that you clean out the garage first and then you can bring down everything in the attic. Meanwhile, going up to the attic and then pull down the staircase, my husband and I must still do it, but it's not as much fun as it used to be. Well, it was never fun, but
Was everyone able to hear Nancy?
Nancy,
Oh,
I just wanted to say that I've been showing Nancy some alternatives in town condominiums. And Nancy has a lovely ranch on a beautiful street and probably will stay there. But I've been working with her for a couple of years, and one of the biggest problems is, decluttering a house. So
figuring out where, when you even tear it down, how you'll fit in the things you really want in a condo.
So I think you're probably going to stay where you are, at least for now. Anyway, I'm going to be a little boring. I don't have a story to tell. Jim and I have 10 children between us, and Jim brought his 7 children up here in New Canaan. I was a single mom living in Darien, and we joined families, and we live in Lee Fair, in a very nice townhouse, which we love. So, let me start. A common challenge that arises with any move, any downsizing, whether it involves moving into town, out of Connecticut, or into a smaller home, is the organizing of the move. Staying Put has a handout which is in your packets with which their members can access. This provides the names and telephone numbers of vetted specialists who are available to do many things. If you need to have a tag sale or an estate sale, there's a list of people that will come and help you get rid of your valuables. Experts on appraisals. We have wonderful appraisers around that can look at your belongings, look at your jewelry, your china, your crystal, and if you want to divide up those things with your children, they can be very helpful in really giving you very good finite values. Don't get stuck. Don't let lifelong belongings tie you down. Have a plan. I have a book that Donna Simone gave me a couple of years ago. I don't have it with me, but it's called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, the Japanese art of decluttering and organizing. This book will help you clear your clutter and enjoy the unique magic of a tidy home and the calm, motivated mindset it can inspire. By the way, I spoke to one of our brokers last week who was putting her house on the market, and she spent weeks and weeks decluttering and staging her house, and it looked just great. She had backup offers and sold it within a couple of days. So you really, we all like to accumulate, but we do have to unload some of our treasures. Staying Put's expertise also includes where to donate clothes and those not-for-profit outfits that will come to your home and to pick up, saving you time and trouble of packing and delivering things yourself. There's a list on this handout here. One of the most important assets you have is your home. We have assisted as brokers, Sheila and I can tell you, many homeowners in staging, marketing, pricing, and selling their properties. One of the primary steps to do is to go and have a broker give you a complete market analysis. It's a comparative market analysis, which we call a CMA, which we construct showing comparable homes that have sold, that have pended, that are on the market, so we can come up with a really good value on your home. You can become an informed client who is best able to maximize the value of your home. Remember, when selling your home, in the current market we are in right now, we have a high inventory. It's most competitive. The environment is pretty tough out there, and the real estate market today is value-driven. All these young millennials that are coming out for our schools are looking for value. They are not going to overpay. They are on the internet. They know exactly what's going on before they even come and look at your house, and they're pretty savvy. It's not like 50 years ago. Remember when selling your house, location is a very important driver for a buyer. Right now, a lot of people like to be close to town. They don't want to be driving miles to carpool. So we have challenges. We can't change our location, but we can make the best of where we are and make our house shine. Pricing is all important. Buyers are cherry picking those homes where they see value and potential. It is tempting to put a high price on your home, but it does not work. Overpriced homes do not sell. They remain on the market for too long, and they become stale to the broker community. On the other hand, if you place it priced to sell, it will. Example, our own Gloria Major Brown, who moved to Santa Barbara a couple of years ago, put her Pride's Crossing Townhouse on the market, priced it very competitively, and it sold in a day at full price. We miss Gloria, but good for her for doing that. Okay. There's an interesting article in the New York Times that appeared about aging in place by Jane Brody. I just wanted to give you a quote of something that she said. Quote, "I suspect that most people are reluctant to think of changing where and how they live as long as they are managing well at the moment." Lisa Sellen Davis reports in AARP magazine that almost 90% of Americans 65 and older plan to stay in their homes as they age. Yet for many, the design of their homes and the communities does not suit older adults who lack the mobility, the agility, and the swiftness of the young. So, in another article I read recently, you have to prepare and think about your steps and the cracks in your tiles and whatever. You don't want to trip and break a hip. Some people put in extra railings, as we have done. We had French doors that go to a terrace, and there was no railing to hold on to. And we had older people come in for barbecues out on the terrace, and they could hardly get down the steps without holding on to something. So these are things, if you're going to stay at home, you've got to really think about. And having loose rugs around that you can trip on. Several people have broken hips just going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, tripping on a piece of furniture or a loose rug. So these are things to think about. So let's talk about where are you going to go? First, there are rentals. You could rent for a short period of time if you don't know exactly where you want to be. We have lots of different possibilities in town. Avalon, which is strictly a rental community in town, quite pricey, offering a pool, clubhouse, and exercise facilities. There are also on Park Street some apartments for rent, as well as Heritage Hill, Ono condominiums, just to mention a few. So that's a possibility. 2, buy a small house in town. A lot of our builders have taken down these small houses, unfortunately, but there are still some left, and they're charming, and that's a great possibility. You can walk to the train, walk to everything, and it's great. 3, buy a condo. We have one of the greatest selections of condos in Fairfield County, right here in New Canaan, with 80 different complexes, offering all different shapes and sizes, ranging from $150,000 to $3,500,000 on Forest Street. There's a penthouse there that they're asking $3,500,000. It's amazing. I said Forest.
Oh, I thought you said Forest, sorry.
No, Forest Street, right across from Gates. First floor masters are most popular, or the ability to put an elevator or a chairlift in. Most of our builders did build, townhouses rather than simplexes. So you're going to have to go up and down the stairs unless you have the ability to, put in an elevator and such. We do have several one-story ranch-type houses. Where I live in Lee Fair, there's many on the sides. Johnson Lee built them, and you have 2 or 3 bedrooms, and it's all on one floor, and they're quite nice. Senior residences is another possibility. We are fortunate to have the New Canaan Inn, Atria in Darien, Maplewood in Darien, just to mention a few. There are others in neighboring towns, so many that I cannot even mention them all. I happen to sing in Blue Notes, and we go and troop to all these different senior residences, and some of them are really very, very nice. Then we have another option of senior assisted living with continued care. Waveney Care Center, Meadow Ridge, Edge Hill, Wilton Meadows, Brightview are just a few. There are 3 stages of living in these communities, starting with an apartment, and then as one gets older and one needs more care, you can graduate to the next level, giving more assistance, and then finally to the level of total medical care until one's death. There's one last option for those who want to stay at home. We have a list of home health care providers that provide assistance that you can bring into your home. There is a list for your review, I think, in your packets. In sum, there are several options to fit the needs of most of our elders. Now, in conclusion, I just wanted to say that the fortunate ones are those who have taken the step just after they retire. People who wait, people who procrastinate pay a penalty. Why? Because the work associated with moving never gets easier as time goes by. Right, Nancy? I bet there are many here tonight who have woken up in the middle of the night and unable to get back to sleep, overwhelmed and worried about all the matters that need to be attended to. And my husband is one of them. Right, Jim? He's a neatnik and I'm a clutterer, so it's an interesting combination. My advice is to seek help from locally recommended resources to help you plan, organize, and dispose of unnecessary belongings. Second, talk to trusted friends who have recently downsized to get their advice. The lessons we will learn from their experiences are priceless. Learn the do's and don'ts of downsizing. Third, join in and discuss with Staying Put your plans. Ask them the names of trusted people who can organize, appraise, manage tax sales and estate sales, and make your move less of a hassle. Also, Staying Put provides socialization, monthly and weekly events, which put you in touch with other wonderful seniors, and you have so much fun eating out, trips to the theater, museums, special gardens, Woodway Beach Club, where we had a wonderful barbecue last summer, was just priceless. The setting was fabulous. We provide carpooling for those who don't have it, and those that don't like to drive long distances after dark. It's all part of your membership. They also have a wonderful group of volunteers at Staying Put who will drive you to doctor's appointments, shopping, and hair appointments. They will pick up prescriptions and do errands, even household chores like changing light bulbs, helping with computers, iPads, and cell phones. It's a fabulous opportunity. Finally, don't even think of doing this job by yourself. Moving and downsizing happens every day in New Canaan. Hundreds of your neighbors have gone through the same experience and can help you avoid stressful times. Also, we at Staying Put are all here for you. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, that was wonderful. I just had a couple of things when you were speaking I thought of. When you are visiting an older parent, if you're the adult child, help them get rid of those throw rugs that are a tripping hazard. And if you're the parent, do your kids a favor and get rid of the throw rugs on your own so they're not worrying about you falling in your house. Another thing is for the downsizing, if you don't live near your parents and they are considering downsizing, or if you don't live near your children, when they do come to visit, before they're coming, say, hey, I could use some help. Do you want to give me a couple of hours while you're here, and we'll get rid of some of the clutter around the house. Another thing I just wanted to mention is as far as Staying Put, as I said before, it is part of the Village to Village network. So there are right now 250 active Village to Village villages like Staying Put throughout the United States. So if your parents live far away, you could look up and find out if there is a resource like that in their community to help them, and that would give you some solace if you're far away. And now I want to just thank the panel again and open this up for any questions the audience may have. I will repeat any questions that anyone asks so everyone can hear. Nancy?
I want to ask more about the condos with master bedrooms on the first floor. I know Lee Fair has some, and I know Greystone Circle has a few. Are there others?
Nancy was asking if there are other condos within New Canaan that have master bedrooms on the first floor.
Well, I would say Pride's Crossing has some corner units that are over the garages that are all on one floor with a lower level, an attached garage. I don't think you have any, Sheila, where you live. No.
Except the one that my neighbor has, Alice is on.
Okay, she's on over the garages, exactly. But Greystone has, Archie Stewart built Greystone on Lakeview, and he very smartly, in the townhouses in the back, put first floor masters and then bedrooms upstairs. And then the newer ones now, the newer ones do have elevators. On Park Street, Tomas has just built 4 units right below the old post office and has 4 floors of elevators, and another couple of others on Park Street do also.
Great, thank you. Question?
I wanted to ask Chris a question, because you are somebody who went through the downsizing experience, and I just wondered if you could tell a little bit about that and how your children might have been helpful or not, or, just how that process went for you.
So difficult. I've been in the house for 38 years, and as all of you know who have children, they leave everything behind. I had piles of papers from college, all this, so I called everybody. No, they didn't want them. And then you have trunks full of all the pictures they did, from first and second grade that you kept because they were so wonderful. I called them and said, do you want them? And they said, no, thank you. We have our own children's pictures. So it was a big decision. I threw them out. I had a lot of broken plates. It was an big old house. It was built in 1919, had one of those wonderful, great big basements where you could put everything. I had so many chipped plates down there, because you have a plate, and it's a lovely plate, but it has a chip in it. You think, well, I can put a plant on it and turn the chip to the wall. So I put it in the basement, of course, forgot about it. So all that kind of thing, finally you chuck out. And the house I live in here is not too small, so I moved most of my big furniture up here. A few things I gave away, but I threw away an awful lot of stuff. Or the Congregational Church in Old Greenwich has a wonderful, next to new shop or whatever, and every day I would take things up there. Also, my husband worked for Time Life, and we had so many Time Life books. If you got a certain place, every single Time Life book that was ever printed, we got. And so we had so many of those, so I can't tell you how many trips to the Stanford Library and donated them there. I must have given 500-600 books away, really good books, but I didn't need them anymore, and so it took a long time. It took me about 3 months to really empty that house. But things I brought up here were the things I really loved.
Yes?
I wanted to ask a question. Everyone, here is kind of in the same chapter. But if you were to kind of go one chapter maybe beyond where you are, if you needed to consider senior living, and if your children lived in another state, how would you feel about staying put here in a senior living community versus a senior living community where one of your children?
Was everyone able to hear? Okay. Would any of you like to address
I know
that?
in my situation, I'd like to stay put in the house I'm in now, and if I could afford to, have somebody live in the house with me. And as I say, my daughter is right next door, who could oversee that she didn't steal things or whatever, all horrible stories you hear about. But that's what I personally would like to do.
Sheila, do you have anything to
I
add?
think that I probably would go to an assisted living near probably my daughter or my son, either one. The one in Denver, probably not. He'll be off skiing or, entertaining women because he's divorced. God knows what he'll be doing. But that would not be a good option. So it would be one of my 2 children, probably Boston. They have some nice senior residences there. I've driven past them and just said, see ya, Let
me put another caveat into it. Let's say in a senior living community here, say in New Canaan, if you had friends that were there, So the senior living community here with friends, and all of your children were out of state. And those are kind of your two choices. Would the friends here in the senior community be a draw to stay?
That's a great question. You'd really have to think at the age or the time that you're about to make that decision, how many of your friends are still here, and would they be available to come visit, or are you ambulatory, or would you be in a wheelchair? That would be a decision you'd have to make depending on probably your age and the state of your mind and your body, I guess.
Anyone have another question?
I just
Yes.
wanted to say one thing about, I think it's called Atria in Darien. I have some clients that were selling their condominium here in New Canaan. They have 7 children, and they're all scattered. A couple of them live maybe near Fairfield or around here. They were from Darien originally. He has Parkinson's, and so they have to get some help. And they have friends in Edge Hill from Darien, old friends, and they've opted to stay in the area where their roots are, having lived in, I think, Darien for 35 or 40 years before moving to New Canaan. So rather than go to the children come to visit them.
Kathy, you had a question?
I'll just add to that. My mother has since passed away, but she was a widow, thinking about where she was going to move next. She had 4 children, none of them were nearby. But she was also living in the town that she was born and brought up in. She chose to go to a continuing care facility in that town. She ended up meeting friends from kindergarten, high school, college, alumni clubs. She never regretted her move. And she was, it was 3 hours for me, but I don't think she ever regretted being independent in a continuing care facility. She also she always stayed in the independent living.
That's, I think, what my mother would like to do. We would like to respect that, and we're getting a lot of input from other people that she should be near one of us. But that's what she would like to do, and that's what we would like to honor her wishes.
Thank you. Is there another question?
I want to ask, are you thinking about that future now? Like, how much time or thought, or do you have a plan? Like, is that something that anyone that you're thinking about when that's going to happen for you? Are you waiting until something happens before you make that decision, or is that something you're currently discussing with your children?
My husband died of cancer, and he was a very healthy 68-year-old man, and it came on very suddenly, and he died within 6 months in 2000. Amy, my daughter here, we're a very, very close family. He had home hospice, so he was home. He never was in the hospital. My boys came home. They took turns coming home every weekend to see him and to be with me. Amy, who has 6 children, they were little children then, every single afternoon she would come down to see her dad. And I remember she said to me after Dick died and this house next door to her came on the market 8 years later, she said, and I always remember, quote unquote, "Mom, the nicest thing you can do for me is live next door to me, so when you become ill, I don't have to drive on the Merritt Parkway." And so I personally would stay here next to her and let her, take care of me. But if I can, unless, some reason I can't.
It's a good
I
question.
think you bring a very good question as to when you think about what your future is going to be. I've thought about it. I think I'll stockpile pills, then I don't have to worry. If somebody said to me, or if I found out something really was the matter, I'd say, well, I won't tell the kids. I'll just, I'll off myself. I mean, I would find it very difficult if I had to deal with, if somebody told me that I had the beginnings of dementia or something like that, I would find that very difficult to deal with.
On trying to have discussions with my parents, but my mother and I talk a lot. about everything, but my father doesn't seem to want to talk about it at all. So I feel like he wants to stay where he is in Michigan, and my mother is willing to come here to Connecticut. So it's hard, to discuss that. And I just wondered how old are they? 75?
Okay, so
So-
that's not that old.
It's not, but
Are they both in good health?
I like to talk about it, my mom and I like to talk, but like even with my dad, like doesn't even want to consider speaking about what if situations, and so it's hard.
Maybe if they could talk
Right.
together.
But I think they've been together having difficult times talking about it, so.
It's not easy. It's not an easy conversation. And that's one of the reasons why we did this panel tonight, to start giving you ideas on how to approach and address it. It's great that you've started the conversation, though, and even if your dad doesn't want to participate in it, at least he's hearing about it, listening to it, and, that's going to make him think about what he would like to do, so that would be helpful to him. Anyway,
There
it's
is a
great. It's
book-
great that you're doing that. Really great.
There's a book called The Conversation. I can't remember who wrote it.
Nor can I.
But, yeah, or
There you go.
Ellen.
Ellen Goodman, The Conversation.
I thought it was a very well-done book.
Conversation project.
No,
Right.
this is just called The Conversation.
Yes, there's another book called Right Sizing. Instead of downsizing, it's called Right Sizing, and it's very interesting for people who are in maybe their 60s or 70s in terms of planning the rest of their life. And it really helps to think about how you're going to plan that and what you do with it. I think every family has their own story. But how you feel about your parents and how they feel about you has a lot to do with how you're going to make a choice. I had to drive that 3+ hours to see my mother, and I wanted to see her, and that was a long trip. And if I wanted to have any time, it was like a 3-day trip. So, I'm pretty late in planning that I'm going to go near where my kids are for that reason, because I know my children are going to feel like they want to see me. So I think you have to think about how your kids are going to want it too.
Yes.
And do maybe something you're not ready to do, because you always think you're younger than you really are.
I'm only 30.
39? Then what?
39, so,
I think there was another question. Yes?
Yeah, I wasn't sure, Sheila, how you answered that question about, how have you planned to make that decision about?
That's a good question, because I haven't really planned it yet. I mean, I've thought about it. I think I would probably go up to Boston, the Boston area. I don't think I'd go up to Vermont. But I haven't really made any concrete plans.
What would you do if you didn't have children?
If I didn't have children? Gosh, what a life, huh? Whoa. No, that's a great question. I guess I would definitely stay here, but at least I have 2 firm options that I could do. And Vermont, maybe I would like Vermont, but I don't think I would. I mean, it's just too cold up there. So my children always tease me. My mother's name was Ruth, so if I say something like I'm cold, they'll say, "Oh, just like your mother, she was always cold." But it's just physiologically. I guess I was born that way. I'm always cold. And the heating bill I have at this co-op is outrageous. And I'm still cold. There's one room that's really warm, and that's because when they put these new heating elements went in there. So I literally hibernate in there unless I go down and cook, and that's before I go out.
Anyone else? Anyone else have a question?
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. Many of my friends live at Edge Hill, which I don't know if all of you know it. It's in Stamford, right on the old Greenwich border. I probably know 20, 22 people there. They're all very happy there. They like it very much. And every single one has said, I am here because it's the best thing for my children, or so forth and so on. It's not their first choice, but that was their choice to go there. For me personally, I would not like to go for group dinner every night. You know, you have to sit with somebody, and, you know, you hear stories about someone will go down and you don't know where to sit. I mean, if you go in there as a married couple, then you always are together. But that's just my personal, why I personally would not like to go to a place like that.
Some of them have an option, you can pick up your dinner.
You can pick up your dinner at 4:30 and bring it to your own apartment, and each apartment has a kitchen. They're very, very nice apartments. There are 4 different styles, I think, there. And they have the 3 stages, you know, they have the nursing home, and then they have the memory unit. And that's where my 2 close friends are up in the memory unit, and I go to see them. So Edge Hill is, as I say, they have wonderful programs there. They have wonderful speakers. And they say the food's incredible. Actually, I've gone there for dinner as a guest. It's very, very nice. So it's just not my choice.
New Canaan was considering one of these Edge Hill continuing care activities. It was turned down for some reason. Is there any chance that that might be revived?
I may let the executive director from Staying Put
That's a really good question.
answer that one.
I will stand there. Okay. I don't want to lean over. No, that's an excellent question. I think we're talking about Edge Hill and Atrium. There are all these great places that you could go, you know, outside of New Canaan. But a lot of people say, I want to be here right with my friends, and this is where I want to be, and I want some independent living where I can have my own dining room, but also maybe just eat in my kitchen and be able to walk into town. And there's a real sense within the community among a lot of our leaders that this is a real need, that we need something that is available right now, soon, but also available for people who want to transition into independent living, not be in a house anymore, not worry about a condo, whatever, but also, you know, still be actively engaged in the community and socially, have social programs and that kind of thing. The issue is really is real estate, because the program that you're talking about, the CCRC, the Continuing Care Center, they were going to build on what they affectionately call the dirt pile, which is where people used to go, and you can go right across from Waveney Park. There's a big property right there that was the original place that they envisioned putting something like that in. And there was a lot of objection to using public land to do something like that. So the issue is then being able to find a place where you have land and you have property and somebody can build there and do something successfully that will be priced reasonably for people. So there's a lot of interest in doing it. I know our first selectman has been talking about it, and other people in town, other leaders in town have discussed it, but it's a very complicated process. I think it would be great to have something like that right here in town, but right now it's just in kind of the starting phase. But if anybody wants to have input into that process, certainly I'd encourage you to go. Anybody goes to the Friday morning coffees for the Advertiser that they have at the Historical Society at 9 o'clock, that's the kind of topic that might come up, and it would be great to get some feedback from the community about something like that. Staying Put is all about helping people stay actively engaged in the community and in their homes safely as they get older. But there gets to be a point with a lot of our members where we say, you know what, maybe you're not so safe here in your home and you need to consider something else. It'd be wonderful to have an option like that right in our town. It's not quite the same, I think, to move to Darien or even just, another town away. So it's a really good question, and it's a real opportunity. That was a really long answer, sorry.
It was perfect. Yes. Anyone else have a question? Well, we just want to say thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you do have any other questions after you leave, please give Staying Put a call. We'd be more than happy to help you, whether or not you live here or far away. Have a good evening. Drive safely.